Somebody forgot their coffee. Yalla.
Yalla.
Three, two, one.
Thank you. Come to Dubai, Habibi. How are you, Dan?
Yalla, yalla,
Yalla.
yalla.
How are you, Dan?
I'm good. Just you know what this is day 3.
3.
Day 3, yeah, really good. I like the atmosphere.
Yes.
I like the atmosphere. This, in this event, we're going to talk about the event, right?
Of course.
That's what we're talking about.
But then also Palmyra.
Okay. Well, I think that's actually connected. La la.
La 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 la.
Because at this event, I actually, surprisingly, I don't know if that's the right word to say, but I got some really nice leads for potential clients, potential onboarding opportunities they're not as easy to get in a regular crypto conference because of the type of people that go there. This one is a lot more diversified. There's a lot more just general technology seekers, and you got a lot of across the board interests. So I got actually a few really nice leads for Palmyra, specifically for Palmyra Pro, that we're going to be kind of moving on. So I'm really grateful about that. Just for my personal business.
Nice. Yeah.
goal.
So, so for everybody watching, we're at the GITEX Global event in Dubai. It's the largest one that they do, but they're all over the world. So we're absolutely huge. Like, well,
yeah. There's a story about that happened today when I was gonna meet them at the conference, GTEX. I look at the app. I go to the conference at the World Trade Center, Dubai World Trade Center. It's just obscenely huge. I ask where. I send a message. Ask where are you? They say they're in hall 1. And there's like 17 halls or something, or 20 halls.
Yeah.
Huge halls too, packed with people, thousands of thousands, probably tens of thousands of people in this thing. I go all the way down this ginormous conference hall to hall 1, walk in there, and there's it's nothing like I was, I'm like, how, wait a second, how is this hall 1? Then I contact Dave over here, and I find out that I'm actually I'm still at GTEX because I was able to get into the conference because they used my badge to get into the conference, but I'm at a completely different part of it because the conference was too huge to put in one place, so they broke it up into 2 places, and the place where our setup is at is like 30 minutes away by cab.
Yeah, I should probably splice the picture in the WhatsApp map.
Yeah,
So,
that would be good.
Just for the sake of like a Joe Roganism, pull it up, Jamie.
Yeah.
Pull it up. Yeah. So which next year, obviously, part of the funding that we receive from the Treasury is to do this event again next year, but as a pavilion rather than a 6x3 booth. But it's all under one roof. And it's actually down at Expo Village, which is where I've put you all up this week. Not yet taking you there. I need to just take you down there to see it, actually, if we can fit it in. But we've been non-stop, man.
I'd like to check it out. This is actually, and I got to say that last year? No, 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2023.
2 years ago, when we did the Crypto Expo, that was a really good conference. You're really good at you have a really good sense for these things. Figuring out where the actual the serious business is at. This one is the same. This one we had a lot of interest. Just constant interest, constant. We just, people just kept coming through, asking about Cardano, asking about projects on Cardano. A lot of RWA interest. Everybody wants to do RWAs. Some people don't know exactly what they want to do with RWAs, but they want to do RWAs. Stable coins was another one that people asked about a lot.
Yep, and it was nice to have USDA join us today. Actually,
Yeah, that
quite
was
late
good.
last minute. I know they've picked up a few good leads. Hopefully, Shantanu will be joining us later after this to record an interview with him as well. Yeah, I think it's not that I have a good sense for it. It's the fact that, I've been going to conferences for years, for the crypto conferences and things like GITEX. So I've done the research, and in my mind, we're at the stage where we need to be reaching out to outside of the blockchain industry, because
absolutely.
there is a huge intrigue around it. That a lot of companies are genuinely looking at blockchain and trying to understand how they can harness the value that blockchain may provide for them. They may not even know what it is, but I think the more people you get on board, the more you talk with them, they come to local community meetups or local events, they suddenly start to think a little bit deeper. Well, actually, is there an opportunity here? And it might be that you chuck 100 ideas at the wall and one sticks, but that's how you're going to get there. I mean, we were talking in the car ride over here, like there's a lot of things out there that people are trying, but it's not necessarily a use case, but that's how we get to finding the use cases.
Yeah, I mean, being outside the bubble, because and that's something actually that Zengate has, and we at Zengate decided to be very selective about. We used to try to have presence in various conferences, not just crypto conferences, but trade shows and conferences for commodities and things like that. And you have to be very specific about your ROIs when you're at a conference, and you have to be very selective about which conferences you have a representation in. So, for example, Rare Evo, of course, we're going to be there. It's a great place to be. There's a lot of different ROI on that for onboarding people onto the platform and showing what we've done. Relevant people, stakeholders are going to be there. Our palm holders are going to be there, so that makes perfect sense to be there. Tech for Impact is another one, great one by Sarah and Socius. That's a great conference. Again, different part of the world, different part of the community. Again, makes perfect sense. You get into the Asian market, you understand the Japanese community. The gatherings in Latin America, that makes sense, for us. But what I'm trying to say is that, but you shouldn't be in every single conference that has stuff to do with crypto, because there's a million of them out there, and a lot of times it becomes this bubble, and you have all these projects that are spending thousands and tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars in booths to have a presence at these conferences, and literally there's no ROI. There's no ROI because the audience is not the right one for them to actually scale up their business. And a lot of times projects in our ecosystem or in our blockchain ecosystem don't have the discipline of the real world business, of the real world of business. They don't know what it is to actually, what kind of discipline it takes to build a viable business. What we're talking about in the car, we talk about mass adoption. Well, how many? And again, you don't have to be in that, but you have to acknowledge the fact that you might have never been in a movement that was something that was mass adopted. Like the internet, for example. Back in the 90s and early 2000s, which is when I started my career. So I actually have a frame of reference for that. Some people don't, and when you actually don't have the frame of reference, you have to be humble about it.
Yeah.
And we in the blockchain space, we're not humble enough to admit, no, there is no PMF of what we're doing. No, we don't know what mass adoption is. Let's really dig into it. Let's really try to understand. Just put our egos aside, put the game aside of this bubble of where you can create money out of nothing, and then you think that if you launched a token and raised $1 million, you've succeeded. No, you put that aside. You go out into these conferences, into GTEx, and you talk to people outside of the blockchain space. You understand what they need. You understand what they're interested in, and then you build with that in mind. That's business viability. That's where it starts, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think to add to that, so these conferences or these exhibitions that we're doing, although like I say, I've researched them, I've been to them, I've already figured out what kind of audience comes. You need to understand that they are kind of like just one part of a larger strategy, and they're an important part, and they can be very powerful if you do them right. But you can't sort of just say, okay, we've done a few conferences now, that's it. No, it's like, no, it's all about the journey. It's the customer acquisition journey that you follow. So obviously the conferences, in the way that we're doing, is saying, okay, let's go to events that are multi-industry, but there's blockchain presence there. That's where you're kind of meeting people in the middle. So a lot of these companies, I mean, you were there briefly today, but we sent Nathan, James, Maureen, and John to the World Trade Center today, where the AI section
conference, which was enormous.
It was enormous,
just
but the reason I
ridiculous.
sent them there on the second day was, guys, you need to go look at it, because you'll see what I'm talking about. Like, this is going to be next year. That's going to be under the same roof as us, and you've got up there your Microsofts, your Hewlett Packards, your Googles. You've got everyone, and it's almost like, ours is nice, it's good. It's obviously it's where they've put the blockchain section in the fintech and the regulators, and even the country pavilions. But there is this kind of like other level that next year people are going to be a part of, and it's something completely different. Even to like it transcends Token 2049 even as an event.
Oh, it's God. I thought Token 2049 was huge. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't fit in one convention hall. It takes two. You were saying, actually, sorry to interrupt you, Dave, but you were saying about how the scale of it. So when I got lost today and hall one at a totally different location, I was actually there where they had specific country. They had country booths, and you actually had different countries advertising their various technical and value capabilities. And that's also something that you really need to understand, because we're talking about, okay, onboarding countries, onboarding, we're going to onboard this country, we're going to do this, where Cardano's going to go to this country and do everything in this country. Well, that's a good place to see what that country needs.
Exactly.
You go there and you actually, because they literally go out there to show what they have and what they need, and that's how you understand it. Not by like imagining it, but you actually go there, you talk to them, talk to the representatives, you say, okay, so you guys have this. What is important to you? That's how you get them to mess it up.
This is why we've got 10 people here, because you're paying $40,000-$50,000 minimum for the stand. So you want to make the most of it, and the only way you can do everything you need to do, especially on something this scale, is you need the numbers. It might cost you $1,500 per person to bring them out, or maybe 2 or 3, but you've got the one-off cost of the booth. You've got to maximize that, because it happens once a year. So you've got to get the numbers in, and this is why I wanted to do the pavilions, because there's going to be 10 projects, 4 or 5 staff, and the staff are going to be focusing on obviously helping the projects out on the stand, but also going out and doing those surveys, getting some footage that we can use, working with the organisers, see if we can get the podcast area, which is obviously quite important, because yesterday you and I think you interviewed 3 people. Yeah. One was the Royal Bank, I believe.
Yeah, the Royal Bank. Facet and DKK.
And DKK, yeah. And I interviewed Quarks, which is quite interesting, because Marek from Quarks, the solar power, tokenized solar power.
Yeah, they're here as well.
They're here as well, but they're on Cardano, I believe.
Yeah.
And they're here with Luna PR. That's their PR company. So Luna PR has done what I've being funded to do, which is to have these pavilions. It's quite interesting. Yeah, and it's pretty much the same setup that they have
Yeah.
is what I was going to have next year for ours.
Well, you mentioned the staff. I mean, I got to say, we were all busy several, many occasions. Literally every single one of us were talking to people. We also had people waiting for us after we got done.
Yep.
So so I think actually having more people there and having a more focused distribution helps. I think this time, I think okay. So I think people watching might want to know this as well, is that kind of the need for clarity came in when we had to make people understand that we're representing the ecosystem. We're not from some centralized entity, because they're just so used to this with other chains that you have these kingmakers in these other chains, and you just, well, are you with I want to have a partnership with Cardano. Like, well, like what do you mean?
Yeah.
With who in Cardano would you like to have a partnership with? You can't partner with with the blockchain. And I think it's very important to really have that clarity. I mean, next year, I think to set up the, what you're talking about is going to help a lot, because this time, many a times we had to clarify, no, we're not representing one entity. And no, we're not representing the Cardano Foundation. We put people in touch with the Cardano Foundation, but we're not from the Cardano Foundation. We're from the ecosystem. All of us have our own projects, our own companies, our own businesses that we built on Cardano. And a lot of times people we had to take a minute to explain this.
So I don't know if you noticed, but and this is something we've had for the last few years. When we've been at other events, we've had our own booth. There's actually it's quite a powerful thing for many, because a lot of these people they have a vision, they have a goal, they have an idea. They may how many times have we heard, we've built on Polygon, and we're looking at Cardano.
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah, that's,
yeah.
Yeah, I have an app. I have an app on Polygon.
yeah,
I'd like to
Polygon.
partner with Cardano. So, well,
Yeah.
maybe the first step would be to
Launch
build the
on
app
Cardano.
on Cardano, and then figure out who you want to partner with. You can't partner with the blockchain.
Yeah, exactly. But saying to exactly that same people, we've got, we're not centralized. Like, pretty much all of the projects on Cardano are privately owned. I started off as an individual or just a small group of people, and some of them have grown and grown well. I'm here doing this. This particular stand is not funded by a treasury or anything like that. And that's quite a powerful thing for these people, because they're kind of like, wow, there's actually money in Cardano. And I think that you don't know until later down the line, but ultimately whether the way that you're going to be successful is by people making money on Cardano. Whether people want to like that or not, that's how you're going to be successful.
It is. I mean, that's really it's very important to understand that, and it can't be printed money. We can't just say, that's not making money.
No.
We're talking about generating income from, it's still okay to do business and like the old world did it, the legacy world that we want to call it.
Yeah, I think it's value extraction, but at the same point, it's a balance of extracting the value that you've added already. So it's the adding value as well.
Yep.
That we need more value add, and we also then need to be able to see that, if we bring people in that add value, because a lot of the people I've been speaking to, they're not even necessarily doing something that's completely different to what we already have, but they're coming at it from a different angle. And I've seen some of these dApps, mate. Their UI is a lot better than what I've seen on our chain. A lot more user or trad 2 style.
Yeah.
But that's what's going to bring people on. So you need to, the way that you attract these people is by showing them that there is opportunity here. If you bring value to the ecosystem, if you add value, then you're going to be able to extract that as well.
Yeah. I think it is important, but again, I think also the issue is that people are just not used to that. people are not used to having an ecosystem, digital nation, if you want to call it, just harbor businesses and people building these businesses, and there is no kingmaker, and there is no, it's like, we'll just go to these guys, they'll take care of everything for you, and I mean, we had somebody today ask, what
It
were
was
they asking?
they wanted to speak to somebody CF because they wanted to, I said, what is it you actually need? And he's like, I want credit. I said, what do you mean, like money? Because no, I want CF to acknowledge. I said, well, are you on Cardano now? He's like, no. I said, it's not going to happen. What are they going to acknowledge? Build something here or launch here, and you'll, to a certain degree, you don't need the CF's credit. If you launch and you launch properly,
Well,
the community, the community will just.
You shouldn't have to need anybody's credit,
Exactly. If you do it right, the credit will come naturally because your users, your customers, will cheerlead you. So you don't need to have these other things. Now, it has been a strange one. I mean, it always has been an issue where they struggle to understand. Like you say, the Cardano is not a company. Cardano, like you say, is a digital nation. It's an ecosystem.
Hello, sir. Could you please guide me to your head of marketing strategy or your PR manager? I like to speak to them about an opportunity to market your business and/or company.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is real. This is really, we got a bunch of these folks as well.
Yeah, a lot of. Although I've not had, I think what Patrick had a few years ago, which was how much to buy Cardano. So what do you mean, how much to buy Cardano? To buy Cardano, how much will it cost? And then Patrick was like, well, it's currently at 35 cents. There's 36 billion in circulation. Putting inflation, like putting aside the fact that you're not going to get it all, you probably need, trillion. Yeah, hilarious. Yeah, so no, I mean, I really do appreciate the fact that you've always supported me with these events, and it does mean a lot that you also see the value as well, and you support me with it. So I'd like to really talk a bit about Palmyra for a bit, because obviously I've been sort of like really interested from day one about what you guys are doing, and I know like most of the people in the ecosystem will know, but obviously it's going to go onto YouTube. There's probably going to be people that come across this that know nothing of Palmyra. So if you could sort of give us a bit of from the very bottom up, and then a bit of an update on what you're currently working on, what's coming next, that'd be great. If that's
Right.
okay.
So at its core, Palmyra is a RWA tokenization and traceability platform, and we work with commodities. We tokenize and we track and trace commodities on Cardano. Everything from lithium and gold out of Argentina to cacao out of Nigeria and the various parts of Africa, to the Sri Lankan Ceylon tea, which is where we started. Spices. We're working.
Olive oil.
Yeah, Greek olive oil. Exactly. We were working with the Greek olive oil producers, working with Zambian honey producers, in various different. In various different capacities. It's everything from wider market access just by utilizing the platform for B2B transactions and trading of the commodities, to utilizing parts of the ecosystem like Palmyra Pro, which are meant more for internal auditing and investor-facing auditing plus compliance with import-export regulations, like, for example, EUDR, the European Union Deforestation Regulation, which is scheduled to go into effect early next year, which mandates traceability for a list of commodities, cacao being one of them, coffees being another one, various essential oils are in that list, without which they cannot import into the European Union. They literally can't. And if they try to, they will be banned from doing business in the European Union, which is a big deal because a lot of these conglomerates, their sole or their main market is the European Union, and so up until recently, there was really no way to comply with EUDR because EUDR demands mandatory traceability, various information about the plots and the farms and how, the ESG compliance and sustainability compliance. They need a way to prove it, which is essentially what EUDR is. This needs to follow the product itself. And so what Palmyra Pro does is it just gives them those tools. They can utilize tooling for EUDR compliance, for ESG compliance, for internal auditing as well, which is something that is very important for producers. Of course, as I said, in many cases, if, say, for example, you have a mining conglomerate and it has an investor base, and the investor base would like to have transparency and visibility into how much, say, ore is being mined at a gold mine, and what kind of machinery is being utilized, and how the assets are being transferred, and all these different things. That's also on-chain auditing, internal auditing that can be done with Palmyra. There is a part of the platform called Palmyra Endeavor, which is aimed at security token offerings and tokenizing actual assets on chain. Thinking about things, for example, the same concept with the gold mine, right? So, but instead of tokenizing the actual gold coming out of the mine, you can tokenize the equipment that the mine utilizes, which can then give you, that can then be converted into the gold token that is backed by the asset that the mine produces.
Yeah.
So there's all this different transfer for dividends and for all these different ways that bottom line here is that it gives access to investment into value opportunities that just weren't there for the average person. These things did not exist. Fractional asset ownership of this nature just did not exist to the average person, where you can put in something like $100 or something and own a piece of a gold mine or an asset in a gold mine in Argentina that will give you a dividend in the end. So yeah, just a lot of different opportunity, what we call opportunity inclusion. And that's across the board. It's wider market access for the producers. It's more inclusion for everybody along the value chain, and then also the end user or the individual user getting access to all these different opportunities for financial gain, as well as data on the products and the commodities they utilize, for example, like the olive oil or the Ceylon tea, or Zambian honey. That just really gives them the ability to know that what they're paying for is what they get, because they get traceability, very easy to use. For example, with our Palmyra Express, which is a B2C platform that runs limited quantities of our choice commodities. Just scan a QR code. It gives you a very easy visualization of this commodity literally from farm to you.
To the doorstep.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously you touched on there about you have some certain commodities that's B2C already. So I think you've been up and running for at least 6 months, if not longer now, in terms of actual being able to purchase commodities on your platform.
So the B2B section, Palmyra, that app has actually been up for a bit more than that. Palmyra Express is the one that we did these, the olive oil and Ceylon tea cigars, and we're going to be doing Zambian honey on it, and so all these different things. That's been up for several months now. I believe for maybe 6 months, a little longer than that. And that's gotten really nice reception from the community. We really appreciate it, because a lot of work and a lot of love went into that. The community loved the olive oil. They started telling their own stories and showing it's really good to see, because really one of the reasons why we decided to launch Palmyra Express is the community was really supportive to what we stood for and what we were building, but it just was really difficult for them to actually touch it, right? To
Yeah.
touch that RWA, because there's actually a lot of talk about that, that, oh, RWA this, RWA that, but what is it? Can I hold an RWA? Hypothetically you can, theoretically you can hold a bar of gold, but most likely it's going to stay custody if you're going to even, buy that. But if you have something like a bottle of Greek olive oil that is also an RWA that's been tokenized, that's been tracked and traced using Palmyra, you can actually hold it in your hand and you can actually look at it and use it.
Yeah.
And that's much more impactful, and I think that actually gives people a much clearer perspective, understanding, and context as to why this technology is so powerful. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it kind of goes a bit beyond that as well. Like, because we're talking about the traceability, but for me, a lot of it is about the trustless trust. It's the immutability. So with blockchain, it's kind of like, that when you get it at your end as the end user, the information that is being collected hasn't then been manipulated later to cover up something that maybe shouldn't have happened in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's sort of then leads into the whole quality assurance side of things as well. So yeah, no, it's really interesting. So I think obviously your next step, I think, was it Palmyra Pro is the thing you're currently working on, or
so that's
tuning.
So that's so right now it's being, if you want to call it tuned, but more specifically, we're building out various different commodity specific implementations. So for example, we are currently, most of our resources are concentrated on expanding and scaling the Cacao app, or the Cocoa app, which is a version of Palmyra Pro that is focused on cacao, because we have tens of thousands of cacao farmers waiting to be onboarded onto this platform, and we really need to make sure that we accommodate them. We're working with the Nigerian government as well right now, and we have a cooperative partner over there, a partner that is a cooperative, called Mangrove. Other relationships as well. And so we're concentrating on that one right now. So the resources are focused on that. We have another version specific for honey, because we onboarded several thousand honey or beehive keepers from Zambia when we did our onboarding for Nature's Nectar. And so we're most likely going to be working on a coffee specific version of Palmyra Pro. And so we're also building out the SaaS version of the Cacao app. There's a lot of different versioning flavors of it that are coming out right now.
Nice. So obviously at the moment it's kind of like, like targeting smaller producers like farmers and whatnot, I guess. It sounds like. But going forward, are you looking at doing sort of like plugins for Microsoft Dynamics or a SAP system or anything like that to kind of take it to another level?
So we're going to be we're considering those. We're also working with we're kind of finalizing our I don't know if you want to call it a deal, but our cooperation with Hughes. For those who don't know, they're a major satellite technology and data provider out of the U.S. Some people might even remember, Hughes TV, Hughes Satellite Television, which was one of the two major networks in the U.S. It was Star and it was Hughes. So Hughes actually has a lot of farm data for livestock. So it's satellite data and various different data for livestock that can be utilized for on-chain traceability of livestock. And so that's, so we're kind of plugging into that. We're working with that. We're also kind of ready to work with governments as well, utilizing those connections. So, yeah, there's a lot of scaling that can be done. A lot of integration into into already existing kind of networks that can be done. It's just a matter of it's a matter of scaling up. That's actually what we're doing right now. We have to scale up because of the demand coming in more and more, and you can do everything at once. You don't want to kind of expand too fast. So there's always a growing pain, especially when you're a startup or whatever the next step after a startup is. There's always going to be growing pains, and it's okay, as long as you know how to manage those growing pains, and as long as you don't let them drag you down or reduce your ability to take advantage of an opportunity.
Cool. So I know we've talked in the last few days, and I think on one of the interviews that you did, well, a couple of them at least for us, when it was just you and me manning the stand, and you drew the short straw and had to do some interviews. We talked about business sustainability and viability, and how it's really hard at the moment in this industry, which is kind of like, it's probably by the fact that it's a new industry, or still a young industry, that many companies are struggling to find that sustainability model that works for them, and find that PMF. So, yeah, how do you feel you've balanced that sort of, we've got a big vision, we've got lots of things to do, but we also can't do it all in one go.
Well, so the first thing you need to understand is if your core vision and if your first principles are honest. I guess that's the best word to say, right? And I'm not talking about honest as in, I will not rug you honest. Objective. And they are true, and they are also, you don't want to go to the moon and, turn it into cheese or something. It's something that has got true viability, true potential, and great and kind of a great growth spectrum, right? So once you have that understanding of your core principles that your entire project, your company is built on, and it's genuine, it's something that you can bounce off, and that's what the vision is built on. Your resilience starts with always being able to go back to those and say, okay, so are we staying true to these first principles that we build this thing on, right? And if you are, then it's okay to pivot. And that's actually very important, because our core vision was opportunity inclusion for MSMEs and wider market access, right? And so our original, the original platform, Palmyra, that app was launched with that intention, and it has gotten some success. However, we decided that a much lower hanging fruit for onboarding and for doing what we want to do with producers, with businesses, with MSMEs, with commodities, developing economies, all these different things that we're our core's built on, is actually concentrating on giving them access to markets that they might be locked out of. Specifically, we started diving into EUDR, and we said, okay, this is a really good trajectory to move on. Because why? Number one, it's a clear problem. So you're creating a solution for an existing, real, clear problem that they're facing and is scary as shit for them because they just can't comply with it. It was literally pushed back, I think, 2 years because there was just no way that businesses people could comply with this, and so that's why I think it was originally supposed to be in 2024, and then it moved to 2026 because of this. Right. It's a big deal, right? So you're creating access, right? So it's still, we go back to the original vision. Okay, so we're not really kind of scaling up the Palmyra, that app. It's still there. It's still doing its business, but we're concentrating on Palmyra Pro right now. Well, we're still doing what we wanted to do. We're still doing that core vision. The ecosystem is still doing its thing. Palm economy is still a super viable ecosystem. It still benefits from what we're doing in the same way as it would from this part. But here, we're solving a real problem. We're using our technology and our ecosystem to solve a real problem. We're bringing on real users into the ecosystem, and I'm not talking about from the Web3 space. I'm talking about we have thousands of farmers right now utilizing the system that are maybe they're into crypto, maybe they're not, but they're just using it, right?
They're barely Web2, let alone Web3.
Exactly,
exactly.
It's some of these issues that we're solving are actually creating digital identities and financial identities for them because everything is in cash, and you have to have a way to kind of record these things on chain. And so the other event that happens when you do this is you onboard these producers onto the platform. That's the lowest hanging fruit to onboard them, right? But before you know it, you've onboarded 50, 60,000 producers. Now, once these producers get used to, okay, we utilize the platform for this, you know what? We're not just in hall one. Yeah. There's 20 other halls to this conference that we can go to. They got all these other super interesting things that we can dive into. And that is what we thought was the lowest hanging fruit to onboarding the mass of people that we truly thought was going to make a difference, was going to create the ethos that we're trying to create and the difference that we want to make, because it's just it's all about the context in which they come in, and then later on they can spread out to other parts of the ecosystem. And so, like I said, you don't have to wait and try this one thing and just no, that's all we're going to try. You pivot, make sure you stick you're true to your original vision and core principles, and just do what you need to do to make this whole thing work. And that's what we did.
I think to add that again, like the honesty and the truth, it's not just what you just said. It's about being honest and true with yourself and what your capabilities are. And then you might not be able to bring everything in day one, but you need to roadmap out, okay, this is where we need to get to. Where are the gaps? Do the gap analysis and just say, okay, truthfully, I cannot do all of this, or we don't have these particular skills that we need. We don't need them today, but we will need them in the future.
Yeah, that's very valid.
And not having that, and not losing that vision. Like one of the things you were saying a few minutes ago is, I was going to say it's more about, you've got these different sort of functionalities, apps, but it's okay. I wouldn't say necessarily pivot, but it's okay to sort of seize an opportunity when it exists and change your focus without it actually being a problem.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it.
It's about one of the key, strengths that you can develop as a startup is resilience and agility.
Yeah.
While staying true to your first principles of why you started this whole thing. And it's okay to pivot. It's okay to pivot as long as you don't just kind of throw people away, or you are not humble to the people that helped you and the community that helped you to get to where you are. If you make, and that has to be one of your first principles as well, is those ethics. Yeah. The ethics that it was built on. Like I said, the foundation has to be true. It has to be proper. It has to be ethical.
Sure.
If it is, then you can bounce off. It's okay to course correct. You have to course correct. In fact, many businesses do course correct. I mean, and I don't even know if it's course correction, but the one that always bring up is Amazon. You know,
Yeah.
when I was starting out in the internet field back in the '90s, Amazon was just like a online books, and it wasn't even online books. They would send you the books,
Yeah.
right? It was before the Kindles they came out. They came out with the Kindle, and then they did this and they did that, and before you know it, today, you know, they do everything from online shopping to spaceships.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that in 1997 or '6 or whatever, you know, when they were starting out and they were thinking, okay, we're going to do books and spaceships?
No, exactly. No, exactly. Yeah. Okay. So, in terms of Palmyra, obviously Palmyra is the platform, but there's also Zengate as well. So Zengate, can you explain how that fits into?
Right. So the Palmyra is an ecosystem. The Palmyra ecosystem, which includes all these different things that I spoke about: Palmyra Pro, Palmyra Endeavor, Palmyra Express, Palmyra Platform, which also is a Palmyra, that app, the trading marketplace, and Zengate Global is the company that created Palmyra Express. So think about, you know, it's not
Cardano,
exactly
IOG.
yeah, exactly. Think about IOG and Cardano.
Yeah. Yeah. Got you.
Right. Zengate Global is the IOG, and Palmyra is the Cardano.
Got you. Okay. So at the moment, where is the data stored? You know, when somebody scans the QR code, where is that information stored? Is that on chain?
That's on chain. That's on on IPFS right now.
IPFS right
And
now.
we're hoping to be able to use you know, more homegrown solutions like Iagon maybe in the future.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. So, in terms of Cardano's development, we've just had Hydra release their V1 on mainnet, I think last week. We've got obviously Laos being worked on. We've got Midgard.
Yeah.
There's obviously Midnight as a privacy solution. So I feel like for those building on the ecosystem today, there's quite a lot of coming soon technology that maybe some of these projects are kind of like not sure whether they're going, you know, which way they're going to go, but you know, at the moment when you look at Cardano today, it isn't not a finished product, but it isn't a complete set of functionalities for a lot of needs, you know, in terms of like with the privacy layers and stuff. It's not all on chain anyway. So from Palmyra's point of view, do you feel like you're going to be embracing any of that technology or utilizing any of it in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for example, Midnight. We're currently working with or starting to work with a fairly major, I guess, food and beverage manufacturer. It's a really well-known company. I can't say what it is because it's still too early. And one of their concerns was that they don't want all the data and it's not traceability. It's something else, right? It's about compliance, right? So they don't want all of their compliance data to be visible to everybody.
Not aired in public.
You know, they
Yeah.
just want it to be, you know, regulators. You know, that's who it's meant for. Some of the data it's okay for some of the data to be visible, but some of the data is specific for specific types of users, and they just don't want it. They wanted to keep it private. That's where Midnight comes in, and we're actually going to be we're going to be trying to utilizing Midnight for that solution to give them the peace of mind that their data privacy is safe, while they can still do the compliance part with for, you know, EUDR, for example, because a lot of these manufacturers now also have to have this type of reporting. So it's not just the producers; they say if they utilize these commodities and they sell in the EU is going to require them to report that the ingredients in their products are actually sourced in compliance with the EU regulation, and next year FDA is going to do the same thing. So that's very important. You know, Midgard, Hydra, for example. Hydra, that's something else that we could potentially utilize. But again, this is going to be more when we go harder on the decentralized trade financing that we spoke about a while back. When we finally expand the actual trading on Palmyra platform of actual commodities that we were talking about before, warehouse receipts, all these different things that we were looking to tokenize. Again, this is in the future because, like I said, now our focus is Palmyra Pro EUDR compliance. We have actual real customers that are waiting for us to do that.
Yeah.
But all these different things that I spoke about right now are going to require solutions for scaling like Midnight, like Hydra, and we will be utilizing them because there's definitely a need for it, and we want to utilize as much homegrown tech as possible, if the tooling is there and it makes sense and it has business viability for us, which it should if it's meant to be business adoptable, then yeah, we're absolutely going to utilize it.
Fantastic. That sounds really good. So I think I'm kind of finished with questions for me for now, but is there anything you want to say or chuck back my way?
Sure. So let's talk a little bit about the dynamic, right? So the dynamic of you being out here, Discover Cardano, because you've been working on this brand for quite a bit. You spent quite a bit of your own money. I mean, your ROI was promotion of the ecosystem. It was not like, oh, you know what, I'm going to launch a token and there's going to be an NFT, or there's no money that was immediately, there was, no money re-entered your pockets here. I think that's a very that's a very honorable and gallant thing to do for the ecosystem. It was very much needed, and I'm glad that that the community finally embraced the Discover Cardano proposal with the Treasury. Because I also remember you tried to do it through Catalyst, and you didn't have success over there, unfortunately. But again, I don't know, unfortunately or not, because in the end I think it worked out, and I just wanted to kind of to bring it back to, I mean, you got really nice funding right now, finally, and how is that? So again, first of all, what is your feeling about that, and also, what is the dynamic here about Discover Cardano promoting Cardano and not needing any, of the founding entities to do it for us? Not that this is in any kind of a jab at any of the founding entities at all, but actually it speaks a lot about the decentralization of this ecosystem, because you, Dave, can go to the Treasury. You, Dave, have this vision of promoting Cardano, and you, Dave, were able to do something about it. That's really big. That's really big. You didn't have to go to the foundation to do it, or you didn't have to go to IOG to do it. You just did it yourself. The community voted on it. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think I would say that, I had tried multiple times through Catalyst, just through the odd event. But I agree. I've never been dissuaded by the results. I think you're right. It was always a case of when, if ever, there's a right time and it should happen, it will happen. When, I think it was back in August, I was on holiday at the time and woke up one morning to like 70 notifications, and for the last year and a half my Twitter account has been pretty quiet, so I was like, oh, what's all this about? So I opened it up, and
except for me sending you trolling you once in a while.
Trolling me, yeah. So yeah, I woke up on one morning in Greece, and it was just like 76 notifications. Like, what's going on? And initially it was like the PTSD, like in the old days when I used to sort of like do those articles on Solana and wake up and I just got 99 plus and everyone was going crazy. It was a bit like that. I was like, oh no, it's okay. It's the community's sort of helping me now to push my proposal and get over the line. I think, it was initially shock, and then I was kind of like, wow, now I'm really happy. But a lot of people, I jumped on a space, and a lot of people were like, oh, do you, you've succeeded, you've done it. I'm like, it's just started.
Right.
I've just started. Like, the success is not getting the money. It's the feeling is amazing that you guys have supported me and that I've got funded. But and I'm so fortunate to be in that position. But now it's like I've got to deliver.
Yeah.
And as like, the event this week and the Philippines Blockchain Week next year and Tech for Impact a couple of weeks ago, these were things that we already had that we were doing out of our own pocket before anyway, without any idea, or even, to be fair, I think Philippines Blockchain Week and this one was always decided it was going to happen before it even put in the proposal money, the proposal for the money. So it wasn't even a thought. So these are not like those pavilions. This is just us finishing off that era of what we'd already signed up to do. But I mean, when I got the funding, or when we passed, I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to pivot, as you said, this event and trying to do what we've got to do with the Cardano ecosystem pavilions. So rather than branding it Discover Cardano, we're going to sort of start using the Cardano branding. We've got the logo, and obviously the foundation have given me the okay for that, even though it's sort of, the IP is supposed like anyone can use it. I think it's always, you should always be mindful, and maybe it's a Britishness, but sort of, just say, guys, obviously I'm going to be using this, but can you just make sure you're happy with this? Because they are, then the foundation are the custodians of that IP,
Right.
just like they're here to make the blockchain sustainable. They're here to try and protect it when it needs protecting, because there's no one else that fundamentally, like, they can't walk away. They're here for Cardano, and that's what their role has got to be.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm really excited, and it was, pride is the wrong word, but it was an emotional time. I'm really looking forward to showing everybody why they were right to support us. This event is just trying to get some of the content together so we can really promote this and get more projects on board. We did struggle. We did try and do it without funding, the pavilion idea, and we couldn't get money. We couldn't get people with money to want to spend $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. So I think it was necessary. But the plan has always been to try and get these projects over here or to these events, show them how to, you get out of it what you put in, show that there is opportunity, and these can be very sustainable and very profitable things if you do them properly. You're not always going to go to every event and find something like it's a golden nugget.
No, of course not. Of course,
It's not
you
how
can't
it works.
expect that. You can't.
No.
I mean, if you're realistic, you can't expect it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say from a sustainability point of view, I feel like, because I was asked by the foundation a while ago, like, how is this model sustainable? And I was kind of like, well, the whole premise of this is to try and get to the stage where I don't need to ask for treasury funding so much in the future, because these projects have now become very successful and profitable, and they have their own marketing, commercial, let's call it a team,
Let's just,
but
yeah, exactly.
focus.
This is what I was talking about before. I mean, why I don't go? Why don't we go? We don't go to all of these different conferences anymore, is because the ROI is just not there.
Right.
We go to select few because it's clear ROI. Sustainability for you, I believe, is to show projects just like the Rare team showed, that there's a clear ROI in joining the Rare event. There's a clear ROI to joining the Discover Cardano events, pavilions. I personally think there is, because I personally have reaped the rewards of, just being, even before you got the funding, being part of what you did. One of our top advisors, Lamont Rattan, we met in 2023.
Yeah, at the Discover Cardano booth. What was he, ex-UN Chief of Commodities, was it? or something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah, he was. Well, so he started two multi-billion-dollar commodities exchanges. He was, I mean, he's like
yeah.
a commodities like
Which
rock
is-
star.
Which is crazy, isn't it? When you think, obviously, it was the perfect fit for you, and we went to that event eyes wide open, like we have no idea what we're going to find here, and so it's a bit fair. I knew what to expect 'cause I'd been there before, but I just didn't know what to expect in terms of, like, it was the first time I bought other projects here, like yourself and Patrick and everybody else. I was kind of like, I don't know how this is going to go for you guys, but you're here, let's go, give it our best. And I was really happy that particular, you got that. I think, I don't know if Patrick came away with anything, but I know Jeremy did as well at the foundation. So yeah, it did have some impact. And I think the point I was trying to make is that from a sustainability point of view, yeah, it would be nice that I can carry on in the future doing these and need less and less, if any, funding at all from the Treasury, because we're now at a stage where there's a depth in the ecosystem where we've got many successful projects that see the value in this sort of marketing and are reaping the benefits of it. However, if there is a consistent year-on-year requirement or proposal to take Treasury money to do this kind of thing for free on behalf of the ecosystem, why would any projects ever pay?
Right.
So when asked a question about the sustainability, I was kind of like, well, if there is a plan here that every year you're going to ask people to vote for you so you can get money from the Treasury so you can promote them for free, then there is no sustainable business model in there for somebody who's trying to do it in a way that is more of a service. It's not funded by the Treasury, because there's always going to be this free money option.
Right, and I mean, there's also a pathway to viability in that as well, but it's a much harder one because you have to truly show the community, okay, well, so you funded all these people for free or these projects for free, but they brought in X amount of users and Y amount of transactions, which created Z amount of value for the chain. Doable, but a lot harder to quantify, right? A lot harder to really kind of push to give a very clear ROI. But if you are successful in showing projects that, and look, this is not you didn't invent the wheel here. You know, this is something that's been happening in other ecosystems, and at Rare Evo. I mean, even Rare Evo, that's something that happened in Rare Evo where you had, say, VeChain, for example, come in and support projects. The same thing happened in so one of the conferences that we visit regularly is the World Tea Expo and the Food Conference in Las Vegas. So this year, when we were there with Theodore, my director of business development, literally a bank from Shizuoka, Japan, subsidized probably 20 different booths for local producers and brought them over, subsidized these booths, and it was literally just this little Shizuoka village at the conference. There was other parts subsidized by different entities, Japanese food export commission, all these different. So it's a common thing, and it's obviously a working, viable model because it is employed it's employed by the industry in numerous occasions. So it's not like you're reinventing the wheel here, and it's obvious. Some of these guys, they got them. They got them for free. Some of them actually paid for it. And it's makes sense because look, is it easier for me to pay you a few $1,000 to be a part of this huge conference, or is it easier for me to pay way more than a few $1,000 and have to coordinate all this stuff, have to figure out all the logistics, talk to the organizers, talk to media, talk to transport. I mean, like all this stuff, it takes a lot of planning, and to make it right. Plus, you're in a conference that you don't know, And you don't know how to go to this conference and be successful. And this is why also it makes a lot of sense that Discover Cardano is out there. You do the footwork, you do the reconnaissance, you figure out which conferences are the most optimal, and you say, okay, guys, so we got you set up for this one, this one, this one. That's what you get with this thing. You have a nice turnkey package here, makes sense, exposure, all this stuff. To me as the CEO of Zengate, that makes financial sense because I've seen the benefits of this. And if, like I said, today I had, and the past 3 days I had to explain several times that I'm not here from the Cardano Foundation.
Yeah.
I'm not here from the Cardano, the magical company that I don't know why everybody thinks it's a company. Well, I mean, I know, but anyway,
Yeah.
from this magical company called Cardano. I'm here representing my own business from the Cardano ecosystem, and this is why I felt that it was important for me to be here. Now, if I didn't have to do that because I already have my own setup in the pavilion, saying Zengate, Palmyra, and they're coming to me, it would give a lot better context, and I can actually spend time on promoting specifically my business and helping the ecosystem versus just spending all this time explaining to people, no, you can't talk to the CEO of Cardano. Oh no, you can't. Cardano doesn't have a marketing department. It gets tedious, and you can skip over all of that.
Actually, circling back very quickly, I don't know about you, but I've had so many people the last few days say, "Oh my God, it's fantastic to see Cardano here." Like somebody from Cardano here.
Actually, I was surprised as well.
We never see you anywhere, and it's like, okay. And I think this is the problem. Like, we're at the stage now where we are starting to be more present at blockchain events, whether it be Token or Paris or whatever. But we're not at a blockchain event. We are at a tech event,
which is important.
And I see some of these people. They do go to these events, and they haven't seen people there, or haven't seen Cardano there, but they do see Solana or Matic or Ethereum or whoever. So there was something I was going to touch on that you were just talking about, but I can't remember what it is now. But yeah, I think in a way what I'm saying is that there is a danger that we have, which is that if we're heading towards this, aiming to be in a position where we're able to provide a service to the ecosystem projects at a competitive price, whatever it is that we do, it could be the same thing can be done, but without having to charge because the money's come from the treasury, if you know what I mean. So I'm just aware of the fact that actually my goal of trying to take away the burden from the treasury over a long period of time, no matter what I do, it can always be emulated by somebody who's going to do it, ask for money from the treasury, and then offer the same thing for free because it becomes a subsidized thing.
Yeah, and that model could work as well, but again, you have to quantify.
I don't want it to.
Well, so yes, that's why I said it has a much harder path to viability. It's just much harder because, like I said, bottom line, what does that make? More traffic, more transactions, more on-chain users, more money back in or more ADA back in the treasury. If it doesn't do that, you can't quantify it. There's just no other ROI that I can think about for the ecosystem because pretty much all this treasury stuff is about creating ROI for the ecosystem, right? So what you are doing is creating direct ROI for the ecosystem, okay? And it is creating a viable business model that is meant to be autonomous from the treasury, so you're not in the business of taking money from the treasury.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is not what this is about.
No.
It's about as a starting point, and then it goes off. And that's the thing. And the way we're talking about being decentralized, we're talking about no kingmakers here. The treasury cannot be a kingmaker either.
Yeah, you're right. I've remembered what I was going to say. So basically, I've said from the very beginning with my proposal when I've socialized it, I'm not reinventing the wheel. Everything that I'm doing is what I've been, as a British company, been taking advantage of for the last 15 years. you know, the pavilions, the trade missions, the grant system for travel and hotel, you know, like even the mechanisms and the calculations. It's all stuff that I've done at 75 events in the past, maybe 78 now. But so yeah, I'm not reinventing the wheel, but I'm bringing some good principles from the engineering world and the local UK government and a granting system and bringing it into Cardano.
And that's important, you know, and that's what we kind of started from, right? We're talking about real world viability, what actually works. You know, let's cut all the bullshit. Let's stop pretending that, oh well, but only if you sprinkle a couple more NFTs on it, it's going to work. That's what works because you've done it, you've seen it work. You have a business that is not a Web3 business that does Web3 stuff. It's a real world Web2 business, or whatever you want to call it, whatever business that generates revenue, that you know that is scaled, that has thrived, and that's what you've done. And this can be translated and transferred and ported over to the way we think. And this is, I think, very important. And this is actually what I've been kind of hammering at and being a huge proponent of, is business viability. If this ecosystem is meant to thrive the way we want it to thrive, we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to understand what is business viable, how do you create value, and objectively see if you are creating value. And if not, you course correct to where you do create value. And that's okay as long as you keep true to the first principles. And that's why I always go back to the first principles. Why am I building on Cardano and not on other chains? Or we're building on some other chains, but also we go to those chains and we think about, do these chains and what we're doing there, are they compatible with the first principles that we came here on? Because that has to do with ethics. And yeah, if they are, we build there. And there's the same thing here. You know, you build here and you go back to those first principles. If they align with the ethics of your business, you stay objective, you build, you become self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And that's just how you do it. And that's how business has been done for thousands of years. And we should not think that we can, all of a sudden reinvent it and print out a bunch of money and then say we're against the people that are printing money.
This is the thing, like, I've said this a few times, even on some of the, like the Interoperable episodes that we've done and stuff. It's like, not, a lot of people in this ecosystem or this industry are kind of like, they believe they're anti-capitalist to a certain degree. But I always say to them, like, the whole point of capitalism is efficiency, right? Yep. Efficiency is profitability. And so what you're looking at is not a bunch of principles that are based upon an ideology of some higher purpose. It's science. How can I be the most efficient to be the most competitive and then, you know, succeed?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of principles in sort of the legacy systems that some people just do not, because it's capitalist. They, you know, the whole idea of efficiency, they're just kind of like, no, we don't want that. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. I'm not saying that we should. I'm not saying we should emulate it, but I feel like we just need to sort of, from what you were saying, like what's the goals here? Like when I came into Cardano, it was because of the TED Talk video in Bermuda, and I recognised, I like the idea of this. I like the idea of how to achieve equality and how to achieve a fairer system for all, and one which actually takes away the need to trust certain entities with certain information or power or even your wealth. And you know, it's many steps, but some of it is kind of like, you know, the reasons why we're talking about the equality, like with the Jeremy and Mohammed, it's because the markets or the areas at which Mohammed lived in have never been the most efficient to be able to actually bring up to a standard that somebody like Jeremy can have. So that's why they don't have the insurance Mohammed doesn't have the insurance that Jeremy has if he falls ill, or it's a lot harder to if you haven't got the database recording or the trust in those countries' infrastructures for systems and data keeping. It's harder to get a job. Like the whole thing is like there's a certain amount where you have to say no. What we're trying to achieve from a process and a structure point of view, our vision is obviously to actually do some of these harder things and accept the fact that it's not going to be the most efficient to put effort into Africa or India or Asia. The ROI isn't going to be so huge, but from a structural point of view, from a process point of view, yes, we can still focus very much on efficiency, but our original goal, we always knew that if we are being true to ourselves, if this is the markets we want to hit, that fundamentally we're going to have to actually put some effort into something that the capitalist systems that value efficiency above everything in ROI wouldn't touch with a barge pole. So yeah, there's that kind of like, for me, it's on the one hand, take some of the stuff that's in the legacy systems because some of it's good, but obviously remember that we're also here because we're trying to do something that those principles wouldn't allow. And I think, like you're saying, consistency is key. It really is, and that doesn't matter whether you're a blockchain founder or a company or even sort of a D-rep. Like with the D-reps, when with my proposal, I had a few of the higher D-reps voted no. They left a rationale. I read it and I messaged them. All I said was, thank you very much. I really appreciate you leaving a rationale. If there's maybe one where it was kind of like, I read it and I kind of thought, I don't think they've really understood that particular part. Mm-hmm. So I'm not trying to change your mind. Just to clarify for you, I think this is where you're coming from. But that's not the case. And I had some nice feedback. I had a couple of them say, I really appreciate that. I said, I'm sorry, I just can't get behind it. And I was like, if you're going to be upset that there's a few D-reps in the top 100 won't support your proposal, then you're not ready to actually be part of a decentralized governance process.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to accept that, and you should be worried if everyone in the top 20 votes yes, then you should be worried. Now, putting my business owner's hat on, I'd be worried because I'd be like, okay, was my proposal too safe? Because the way that we move this ecosystem forwards is by taking risks and being ambitious. Mm-hmm. So if every single proposal had played it safe, that's how we end up 5 years behind schedule.
Yeah.
Like you want to have D-reps coming back to you and saying, look, I like you, Dave. I think you're great. But Jesus, man, are you really going to be able to do 20 events this year, like with the team that you've got? Mm-hmm. I think you're pushing it. And that's where that back and forth comes. Yeah, you're right. I should probably bring it down to 10. Now, I took mine from 10 to 6 for different reasons. I won't go into them. But that's the thing. Like, you need to be in a position. Like, you should be saying, sugar, everyone voted yes. Was I actually being ambitious enough?
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, just not just with proposals, but just really setting company goals, for example.
Yeah.
We recently did a founders workshop in Las Vegas after our Evo for Zengate, and we outlined our 3-year roadmap and then internal goals for things like product, for things like revenue, and all these different things. And each one of us, including myself, we created KPIs for ourselves. And in those KPIs, one of my jobs was basically as a CEO to kind of go through some of these things. And of course, it was done in consortium in a way, but also as my job as a CEO is to be the guy who says, okay, are we on track with this? Are we being ambitious enough? And really, one of the things that myself and others as well have brought up on various occasions when we're creating these KPIs was, does this feel comfortable for you?
Yeah.
If yes, then you're doing it wrong. It shouldn't feel comfortable. It shouldn't be completely outlandish, but you should feel kind of a little uncomfortable when you set this up, because you need to, you know, you need to push it, because you're gonna like, okay, yeah, I think I can. I think if you're confident that you can do all of this, you're doing it wrong. You should be confident that you can achieve it, but it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, you should be going. Let's say it from a CEO's point of view, you should be going to bed at night thinking, like, being able to fall asleep, but your last thoughts are kind of like, am I ready to submit this, or am I really, you know, pushing this? And then when you wake up in the morning, you don't want to feel like, oh my God, there's too much, and you're sort of like, don't want to get out of bed, but you shouldn't be waking up being bored. You know,
Right,
that's
right,
the
right.
thing.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. You know, you shouldn't be waking up feeling like you're 5 years old again, and you have no worries except for, you know, drinking juice and going to kindergarten. But yeah, I think it's very important to have that mentality. I think it's very important to set goals like that, and I think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about business viability, and all these things have to be looked at from that angle, from the angle of business viability.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.